Hello and what is up, everybody? Welcome back to Game 3 between Faceless and TNC Pro Team in the Kiev Major main stage. Faceless lost Game 2 somehow. I actually don't know why. I watched the early game and I thought they should have won that one for sure. It's not like I don't know. TNC played well. The game was definitely on Sam H as well as Cuckoo, and they pulled through. Enough about that. Let's talk about this one. OD and Ogre pickup very early for TNC. Of course, OD very good against Abaddon, and it's also been banned out a couple of times by Faceless. And this time around, they're like, no more of that. We're gonna take it in the first phase, and let's see what they can do with it here. Ice will get his Abaddon in the first phase. They're going to go with the same bans here as well. Lena and Monkey King taken out. Entering the second phase, they take out Dazzle from TNC as well as Raven's Juggernaut. Surprising, as that wasn't something they've really targeted in the first game, I believe. Second game, they didn't ban it out either, but here they decide that I think Jug and OD do have a good matchup with one another, or good pairing with one another. The Healing Ward being a pretty big thing. It's still strange though. I'm surprised it's not like I guess they think with the OD pickup, TNC probably not going to go with something like a Spectre because that's a bit greedy. So they're going to go with the more active carry, and for the most part for Raven, that's something like a Juggernaut or a Weaver. As for TNC, they've banned out Black's Clinks as well as Jab's Shadow Fiend. Shadow Fiend, decent matchup against OD, and Clinks is a carry hero that I think Faces is going to go back to. I don't think they're going to go with something like an anti-mage again. They want something where Black can just be active early. The Slark might be out of the picture as well. I was going to mention the Nyx pickup here. Definitely a go-to pick. Kind of a counter pick as well as Nyx is something that TNC really like onto Samage. And this is the first time that they've actually went away from their first two picks, where normally they would pick a hero for Tim's and then follow up with a hero for Sam H. And keep in mind, last game they changed that up as well, where they picked Nyx, something that normally you expect Sam H to play, but instead they had it played by Tim's in the support position. So it was actually a first two support picks, and they got the Axe pick later that paid off for them. So once again, changing up how they're drafting against Faces might be the answer, and you might have to give that to their analyst or coach, telling them, okay, for you guys playing against other teams, it's working out picking your initiator very early, but against Faces doesn't seem to be working out, and here they're changing it up, picking Ogre, OD, and now following up with the Vengeful Spirit. This can either be the carry, and it might be the carry here, played by Raven. And TNC kind of pulling things out that we haven't seen from them before, and they're definitely gonna need that to take out Faces. It seems like when they're trying to play their regular playstyle in the first game, they had a pretty good draft in my opinion, and it's something that they're used to playing, something that they've played a lot, beat these other teams with, but it did not work against Faces at all. And since they're switching it up now, it worked in game two, and let's see if it works again here for Faceless. I think they do want to pick Black's hero next, or they can save it for last, but I don't think that's very likely. And the Clinks is banned out. I don't think Slark's very good here. What else can he play? Oh, they're gonna go with it. Actually, I mean, Slark is 1 or 2-0 already in this series. One game one for Faceless and one game two for TNC. Well, Slark didn't really win that game, but he was on the winning team. And TNC gonna follow up with the Omni Knight pick. And so this is something way out there. This is not something they're used to running. And I think it's good to change it up, but it's whether they can execute it or not is the question. And if they can, I think this is their trick to beating Faceless and continuing in this main stage run.
Radiance ban.
And so Faceless will ban out the Terror Blade. They're worried about
Radiance
some type
bid.
of illusion spam right now. And do they go with the PL then? I think that's also a hero that's very good against Slark. The mana burn is huge against all the heroes that Faces have so far.
10 seconds to go.
And they ban out the Tinker, so
5 seconds.
alright, they're going to think about it here, entering their reserve time. Faces do have the overall last pick, so they still have the option to pick a mid hero that can match up fairly well against some type of illusion hero, because right now they don't have really the answers to it. Between the Crystal Maiden nukes and, I mean, the Dark Pact and the Slark, I mean, they don't really have any way to deal with some type of cancer, even maybe like a Naga Siren, but that might be too greedy as they do have an OD mid, and he's just going to be sitting there and farming. And no, instead they're going to go with more of a fighting hero. Troll Warlord picked up here and synergizes very well with the OD. And it's a pretty solid draft, so it won't be a Venge carry. As I was already predicting that one. I don't think it was going to be Venge carry after seeing that Omni Knight pick.
5 seconds.
I mean, they do okay, but it's a bit too heavy for the OD to try to carry the game against a Nyx Assassin. And I definitely like the Troll pick here. As for Faceless, how do they respond to this one? Medusa. Alright, Medusa pick up for Faceless as the last pick. I think she matches up okay against the OD. It's kind of a even mid matchup there. Both mid heroes want to just farm. Troll is a bit more active than the Slark early, or has the potential to be more active. But once again, Omni Knight gonna give Slark a hard lane. Sam H hasn't been on this hero in terms of looking at his Dota buff. I don't think he's played it in a long time, or if ever. I don't know the stats on that for sure, but it will be an Ice Nyx Assassin. It's actually going to be support Abaddon. So once again, Face is going to change it up and put Ice on a hero that actually is an initiator, a ganker. It's something that they haven't done too often. More times he's on the hero like the Abaddon, Omni Knight we saw in the last game, and even something like a Timber Saw. But this time around, they're going to change it up, realizing that they do want this Nyx in more of a core position to deal with OD. And so once again, Nuts will be on Crystal Maiden. I don't feel like they wanted Abaddon necessarily to be on a support from the start, but they saw OD come out. So I think TNC had the first pick, I believe. Yeah, they did, because Faces had the last pick. So they first picked the Ogre, and Faces had to pick up their next two heroes, and then the OD came out surprising them, so they had to change up their draft, picking into that Nyx Assassin. Anyway, smoke start from TNC. They're going to TP out. Tim's should get a ward out to block the camp. TNC going to be on the Radiant once again, but since Black has TP'd out as well, he's going to be able to scout out Tim's, and he won't be able to get his ward out this time around. And even last time around, I think Faces did get the D ward off relatively quickly, so he's not going to be able to block up that small camp. And Black will be on Slark once again. What is Cuckoo? He walked up, maybe trying to scout out something, but the ward was placed up by his team. As for the warding from Faceless, they got one in this bottom lane, and it's getting pinged out by Ice though, so TNC don't know that it's there, I believe. But I think they see Sam H and they want to swap up their lanes, is the thing. They know that Sam H is going to be slowing the safe lane, and they see that an aggro lane, or they most likely predict that an aggro lane is coming, and Omni Knight is here at the bottom rune, so they're going to swap up their lanes and send Slark bottom. So once again, Slark against Omni Knight isn't the best lane, but they definitely lose in the try versus try, I believe, especially with support like Abaddon not being the best in that type of situation. I'm actually gonna give him the rune, interestingly enough.
No more beds, please.
And so they drop a sentry here as well, suspecting a potential ward. There's no ward there. And TNC actually gearing up to try to do a try versus try, but they've blocked the small camp. Put a ward here, spawning out the big camp as well. Of course, when you're doing aggro try, you don't want to block this big camp because then you're not going to be able to use it for a pull. But they're going to run into Ice Ice Ice. Of course, Ice 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 didn't go for a regen heavy build because he probably expected to be able to go offlane and have the shrine available to him. But of course, Nyx does have a decent passive regen. And you look at Nuts, he's actually starting in the enemy jungle. He's farming up this big camp right now. And they're actually going to leave Black to solo 1v1 against Omninet right now. I'm actually not too sure about this. And this might be a response to Tim's dual laning against Jabs. And they feel like Medusa needs a bit more help in this lane. But it's just strange that they did start as an aggro try and then they just leave Samage to 1v1 anyway. I guess they felt like they couldn't do too much against them. Crystal Maiden and Abaddon not really going to do much in terms of trying to zone out Omni Knight at this point. I mean, they can do it, but it's not as effective as other heroes. And so they're favoring Black having a early start in terms of experience first. And now with Tim's rotating in, Nuts as well as XY going to come down here to make sure that Black receives the support that he needs. And this is going to leave the mid lane to be a 1v1 for now. But if you look at the CS score, Omni Knight's doing very well. 11 CS onto him. Black only has 2. So, I mean, Samich is doing exceptionally well in this lane so far. And this is actually not good for Faceless as an early start. I didn't like the Slark pick in this game, and the fact that Black's gonna be off to a pretty slow start is not a good sign. In the mid lane, looks like Cuckoo gonna do a bit of a trade here with Jabs, but I mean, not too bad for him. He does have a salve. Where did my sound go? Something happened to my mic. Alright, my sound's back. In the bottom lane, we see XY almost go down here. Aphotic Shield gonna save his life. And as for Black, I mean, his CS is looking very bad. 4 CS at 3 minutes. That's not good at all. In the mid lane, Medusa is doing a decent job in the mid lane against OD, but that's as expected. I mean, she's actually winning the lane right now. Skuku is completely out of regen. Jabs is at full HP, he hasn't used his shrine yet either to get this health and mana advantage. And this is just the magic, or the Mystic Snake doing work. And comparatively, Ice isn't doing too hot in this top lane either. I mean, you compare him and Black CS and they're on the same page right now. Both of them are not doing very good in terms of farm at all. Compare that to the cores on the side of TNC, both Sam H as well as Troll Warlord. Raven is doing very good, and Sam H is at the top in terms of CS right now. When you see a pounce onto Tim's, he's very tanky as he's an ogre. Sam H can come in, he has the heal available, he's just saving it as he knows Tim's is not really in trouble quite yet. He's going to repel to get himself out there as well, and just 4 minutes in the game so far, and the laning stage is going very good for TNC. And this is the polar opposite of how the early games were going for Faceless in the last 2 games. And considering that they did win the early game in the last game and actually ended up losing, I think TNC definitely have made the adjustment that they needed to make to win this series. But here, we might see first blood secured by Faces as a nice rotation coming from XY as well as Nuts. Nice pounce there from Black as well, and XY will get the first blood there. And one thing that Faceless does have for them is this Medusa. She's doing a very good job in this mid lane, keeping even in CS with Cuckoo, and actually giving him a pretty hard time. A hard enough time that they feel like they need to bring Tims in here to help out Cuckoo a little bit. In terms of this top lane for Raven as well as Rior, they're doing pretty good for themselves. They're doing a good job of shutting down Ice Ice Ice. His experience is doing okay, but not as good as Sam H. But overall, early game not doing too good because Black is behind, but I think that's how Faces like to play. Of course, the first game was a bit of an exception where Faces kind of won every single lane, but this time around, I think they can afford for Black to have a bit of a bad game, and that's kind of how Slark works. You either want to give him free farm so he can get going really early, or you make sure your other lanes do well, and then you just have Slark come back. You just make sure that he gets experience. That's one thing that can really hurt him if he gets shut down to a point where he's zoned out of experience. But maybe he doesn't start with the best farm. He's only up to 15 CS, but as long as he's getting experience, which he is in this bottom lane, he's going to be able to catch up fairly quickly as long as the space is open up for him in the jungle and even a little bit of lane farm. He can pick up an Iron Talent and come back very quickly. I mean, XY and Nuts just doing a bit of a dual roam at this point. They're not really splitting up at all. Compare that to the supports from TNC. I don't think they've met up at all in this game. And Tim's going to get caught out, but he's going to easily just TP back to base. Rior has been focusing on just supporting this top lane. I'm not sure if he's been going for these side pulls, but I'm assuming he is because he's pretty good on experience. And they're going to try for a killer into Ice Ice Ice, but nice carapace into stun, and he's going to be able to get away. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, the rotation's coming in from the supports. Or is that a solo kill from Jabs? I don't know. I missed that kill as I was watching top. And so Odie does end up going down there. What actually? He died over here. I don't know what that was actually, but he died regardless, and it's very big for Faces. Actually, this is their second kill in the game. Ice 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 doing a very good job of staying alive in this top lane and getting as much out of it as he can. He's not getting as much as Sam H for sure, but he's doing a good job staying alive and getting decent amount of experience. He's gonna hit level 6 soon in like the next creep wave or so. But the big deal is Jabs being pretty much able to free farm this mid lane. Well, not free farm, but he's done very good so far against Odie. As I mentioned before, Medusa is not too bad of a matchup, especially being able to burn the mana from Cuckoo with the Mystic Snake if he walks up too close to the creep wave. Definitely a big deal for them. And they've set up a ward here to scout out to any rotations, any heroes sitting behind Cuckoo, and they want to continue to put pressure onto him. And that's how they did win the first game, so I definitely agree with this decision. But now we're going to see Rior as well rotate in to try to find a kill here onto Jabs, and even Sam H going to go into here. And they rotated 4 heroes for this kill onto Medusa. They turned it around. And now they're going to get a secondary kill as well onto XY rotating in. And that's very good for TNC. Now it's going to run into Sam H now. And it was a big deal TPing Sam H into there, because I think Cuckoo would have went down without it. And so Cuckoo had that confirmation from his Omni Knight that he was going to come in there, so he just manned up, didn't back away at all, securing that kill onto Medusa as well as Abaddon. And it was good that he also put a point early into Arcane Orb to make sure that he can dish out that damage. And so TNC do have the classic Omni Knight OD combination, while on the top lane we're going to see a pickoff onto Ice Ice Ice's first death of the game, and thus with the rotation coming in from Tims as well as Rior, and they're finally going to group up and start to do some dual roam action. And with that kill, they're going to be able to take this tier 1 tower top as well. In the mid lane, we're going to see Cuckoo maybe in a bit of trouble, but no, actually I think Crystal Maiden might end up going down here. And once again, the TP rotation coming in from Omni Knight. Sam H gonna show up, but oh, alright, he's gonna get the imprisonment, and so that will be a dead Crystal Maiden. And the Stone Gaze had to be committed there by Jabs, and they don't even save the Maiden there. Ice Ice trying for the deny onto the top tier 1, and he won't get it off.
Radiant's bottom tower
As
seen better days.
Ice doesn't get the stun there to cancel the TP coming in from Raven. He's going to get to his safe lane and defend his tower. Black gonna do some creep cutting, but he's caught out and he's gonna have to TP out now. And he should get away here, and he does. Jabs, walking up, finds a DD rune, realizes that he probably can't get there in time, and will just deny it. Not too big a deal as he doesn't have a bottle. And Jab's just gonna farm up the jungle a bit here along with Nuts. I definitely think that Faceless do have a late game. I don't think they have the superior late game by far, but Medusa is definitely good in this game against both OD as well as Troll. The problem is if she doesn't get ahead or keep up in farm, she definitely is just vulnerable to being bursted by these heroes. And of course, OD definitely doesn't mind stealing more in from her. Against these tanky heroes like Medusa as well as Abaddon with his ultimate, you can just get a ton of Arcane Orb procs and just steal, well, not a proc, but Arcane Orb hits and just steal a bunch of intelligence from them, and that's going to make his ultimate very potent. Potentially just like one-shotting heroes like the Slark, and it's going to be annoying. It's going to be up to whether Ice can get the control onto this OD. It's going to be hard because he does have the repel, keep that in mind. But OD definitely is the hero to look at in this game. And he has Raven to help him out with the battle trance, so he's going to be hitting hard and fast in this game for sure. And Black still hasn't made his comeback yet. He's up to level 8 now, and you look at his CS, he's starting to make a comeback, but he's still very far behind. And it's going to be a long time until he gets that Blink Dagger. Compare that to Jabs, and he's doing okay. You look at the overall net worth, and we see that Medusa is indeed at the top, but as for Ice and Black, they're still very far behind, and you're looking at Faces, they're definitely looking to try to get something done. We've seen OD get Midas picked up, and it's going to be a good pickup for him in terms of being able to scale, in terms of farm. TNC definitely still looking to play this game slowly, and no rush for them right now. They know that they're definitely ahead in terms of net worth, and they just got to make sure they don't get picked off by these Nyx ganks, and they're going to be good. And we look at Tim's, and he's going for the Bloodlust build this game, and that's going to help buff up OD as well as the Troll very much. In the top lane, we see Sam H actually get a solo kill here, and he has a Midas picked up already, and I mean, he's actually balling in terms of gold right now. Top the net worth for him after that solo kill, and he's TPing down bottom, and they're looking to actually make a smoke gank, wrap around, maybe take out this bottom tower. Trying to bait Raven a bit here, and Black not going to be able to play aggressively on Troll regardless, so it's not too obvious, and they need to come in and disable Black. It's kind of hard. They'll drop the ward, and they're going to find Nuts instead, take the easier kill here, and look at that battle trance. Or no, that's not even, was that battle trance? Oh, that was Omni Knight attacking pretty fast. They're not going to be able to find Black because he should be able to get away. Pretty elusive on the Slark still. That's going to be a tier 1 tower for sure. TNC looking very good in this game, and I think this was their plan. They tried to play their regular strategy in the first game. It didn't work out. Faces completely stomped them in about 20 minutes. But now they're making the adjustment. I feel like they had this in mind, planned for Faceless, and the fact that they did lose the first game so hard, they're going to pull out their strategies that they had in their pocket. I'm surprised they didn't just do it immediately, but the fact that they did make the adjustment is what matters, and they're going to have to commit their Guardian Angel here to get Rior out, but Sam H might still be in trouble here. Ice actually will miss his stun. I don't think the swap there was necessary, and it might have actually killed Sam H. He could have just walked out to the left side. I mean, it's going to save Rior, though. Like, that was a bit odd. I don't think... It definitely wasn't the swap for sure. I think he expected the stun to hit, but it didn't. So Sam H dying there, which I don't think he actually needed to. I mean, he was fine just walking out through the left side for sure. But anyway, it's gonna give some time for Faces to come back. They're still very far behind. If you look at the net worth, TNC is about 4,000 gold ahead. Raven continue to farm up, and once he gets his Sanj and Joshua and like a blink or something like that, he's gonna be very deadly. Slark is not in fighting shape right now. He's still pretty far away from his Shadow Blade. Medusa is okay, and she has her farm. Went for these early game items: Ocula, Magic Wand, Yasha, as well as the Face Boot's gonna go into a Dragon Lance next, and Faces realize that Roshan is going down or something, as they've TP'd out immediately, leaving this. Or they just want to gank onto the OD, and with Ice being there, I don't think OD should have been in the mid lane. I think he wasn't expecting it as he saw Face's heroes in the bottom lane. They immediately made the rotation for him. I think Ice was just calling for it. He's like, I need +1 onto this OD, and Jab showed up, was there for the kill, and it's going to even stop Roshan. And I don't think Faces actually knew Roshan was on. They just wanted to kill that OD. And so they kill OD as well as stop Roshan from TNC. Very big play for them there. I think TNC just want to push the mid tower now, and OD has to watch himself. That's when he's going to be vulnerable with Omni Knight behind him, with the Repel, who's actually only put it 1 point in it so far. Doesn't last very long, so Ice is definitely going to have the options to make plays this game until this Repel is maxed out. As for Black, he's still trying to catch up and farm that Shadow Blade, but even once he gets that Shadow Blade, these heroes aren't very easy to kill. I don't think he could actually kill any hero. Maybe Vengeful Spirit, and that's it. Even if she's next to teammate, she's gonna just swap herself out. Omni Knight can of course just save anybody. OD can imprison himself. Ogre's pretty tanky. Relatively a rough Slark game. They're most so picking it up, I think, just to make sure that TNC didn't get it, because I think TNC with the Slark this game definitely could have been a threat. This is the double stat stealing heroes, of course, OD as well as Slark. Decent combination with one another, especially with what Faces already had. The Abaddon as well as the Medusa, they probably were planning to pick it up, and more so a block pick. I definitely don't agree with the Slark coming out fourth, because they already knew TNC's draft, and with the OD already coming out as a second pick, of course he's very good against Slark, and I'm not so sure why they decided to pick him up there in the fourth pick like that, unless it was to deny TNC. So that's one of the only options, or they just like the hero. I mean, as I mentioned before, it is undefeated in this series so far, so I mean, it can't be too bad, right? But because Faces do have this Slark, their early game is relatively slow, and because Slark did come off from a slow start, they actually made a decent comeback in terms of net worth after that OD kill. In terms of farming the map, they've done a good job. Most of that is on to XY. He's done a pretty good job of staying up there in terms of farm compared to the sports inside of TNC, or he's kind of just sitting back and just following their cores around and not doing much of farming themselves, and that's mostly the reason behind this comeback in terms of net worth for Faces. But now we're going to walk straight into Roshan with the smoke and try to secure this Roshan. It doesn't look like Faceless know that this is going on, and if they do, it's going to be too late. They're probably suspecting it now, but Roshan will be falling as soon as they walk in. This might be a bad thing, as maybe XY is going to get caught out, and he's going to immediately pop his ultimate, because if he let himself fall low, he was afraid to be rooted up. But Kuku's going to steal a lot of int. He's going to drop the hammer. He has to try to get himself away now, and he will end up going down to Black, and this might be looking to be a good fight for Faceless. Kuku's gonna respawn, but he's getting wailed on by Black. Imprisonment gonna be used. He's gonna be rooted up as well, and that mana burn actually doing work. Jab's just manning up now, and TNC are forced to retreat. OD does end up going down. Black uses Shadow Blade, maybe trying to look for more. Yeah, very good fight for Faces. I wasn't expecting that one. And so they did claim the Aegis. The fight didn't go their way, and that's because the farm right now on Abaddon, he was going to show up. He has the maxed out Apodic Shield. The Buckler also did pretty decent work in that fight as well, and OD couldn't get his damage out because Omni Knight level 2 repel didn't seem to be enough. That Nyx Assassin did a ton of damage to OD, and the more int he stole, the more damage the Mana Burn did. And definitely, I like the adjustment to Faceless draft, picking up this Nyx third and having Ice Ice play it. Definitely working out for them so far in this game, and even though TNC did come off to a pretty good start after that fight, I mean, that advantage is entirely turned around, and I'm starting to like this Slark a little bit more here, as he's hard to catch out. No one on the side of TNC can really deal with him other than this OD, but at this point OD has such a hard time against his Nyx Assassin, and speaking of that, Ice actually might end up going down here, but no, nice 3-man stun from him, but oh, he still dusted up and he's gonna catch the ignite. He's forced to pop the magic wand to stay alive, but he gets the carapace off once again, but tries to TP out. It's not gonna be enough. He does end up going down. Nuts might be in trouble here as well, as he's trying to juke himself out. He doesn't have the TP, but he gets away for now, as TNC won't pursue. Yeah, back to what I was saying about the Slark. He's, of course, not very good against OD unless he has his ultimate up. He does have to play around his ultimate a lot of times because the Arcane Orb definitely owns him. Having his intelligence stolen isn't something that Slark really enjoys. But Troll Warlord also can just man fight Slark pretty well, especially with the Omni Knight. But the thing is, with the rest of his team and the coverage that he has, Crystal Maiden with her spell slowing the attack speed from TNC, and Nyx Assassin most importantly. He also has, of course, the support from Abaddon, so that he can stay in these fights and continue to man up. Fitting with the overall draft, I definitely see the Slark here and why they picked the Slark fitting here and why they picked him up. Can farm through the jungle, and overall they didn't really care too much. It seems that he had a pretty slow start, as they've made a decent comeback in this game so far. Ice is going to pick up a Midas for himself, and he's going to have his Blink picked up very soon. And supports on the side of TNC just don't feel impactful. And I wonder why they're not picking Tim's his Earth Spirit. And his Monkey King does get banned out, but I think it's because they feel like they don't want to play against XY's Ogre, that they had to pick it up here, and so they picked it at first for Tim's to kind of block Faceless from having it, and it's putting them in a weird position here, as for sure his Ogre My Guy is not feeling as strong as some of the other roamers that he plays. And even in terms of farm, he's not doing a very good job of keeping up. He's behind Nuts as well as XY, and both the supports on TNC are behind the supports on the side of Faceless. And I mean, XY is very farmed, and he's playing pretty much as a core at this point. He has his Mana Boots mech, and he's going to go into a Solar Crest medallion first as his next item. And it's a very big deal. Solar Crest definitely hurts both Troll as well as Cuckoo at this point. And I think FaZe, I mean, they're chilling right now. They're farming out. Black is just farming the jungle. He's hard to kill. It's nothing like the Anti-Mage game that he had to play, where he was dealing against that Windrunner, Shackle, Nyx Assassin stun, as well as Axe Call. In this game, the only way that Slark can really get caught out is nothing. Only time he gets caught out is if he goes in there and dies, actually. So yeah, they have no answer to Slark in terms of catching him out. In terms of the team fighting, yeah, they do have the heroes that match up against him pretty well, but because, I mean, FaZe is just avoiding team fights at this point, as they really had to, and you saw that they fought there at Roshan. They're just chilling out, and they might looking to set up a gank here onto Cuckoo. Both jabs, Ice, waiting in the trees, XY's over here as well. And there's a big orange circle and lines drawn by Tim's, and I think he says that their jungle is getting camped, and don't play too aggressive, and we're going to see that there. I don't think Raven's going to go for the next creep wave, and they're going to just show up as 4 and make sure that they're safe, and they're going to feel a bit more confident seeing that Slark is in the top lane right now, And so he will show, and it's going to run into Ice Ice Ice, burning his mana, giving him a stun to the face there. A bit annoying for him. Guardian Greaves, or Mech Greaves. Greaves going to keep his mana at a decent level, I guess. And I actually don't know about TNC here. They're farming out, but is this their game plan? Against Medusa, they're giving a lot of space to Jabs right now. He's very farmed, about to hit level 18 soon. It's more than happy at his farm right now. He's at the top of the net worth in the game. Gonna get his Scotty in, let's say, 3 or 4 minutes from now. 3 minutes if he's continuing this free farm. And it looks like TNC definitely looking to put the pressure, but because they have no catch for this Slark, Black is going to be very annoying in terms of his split pushing now. And Raven going to run into him. He's going to ultimate and TP, and they have no answer to it, as I said before. He's going to get out just fine, TP to base, and just go right back to split pushing. Ice just has been just doing his thing, farming out these side waves, and clearly Faces don't want to fight because that's what they're not strong at doing right now. That's how Slark is going to die, but in terms of his split pushing, his farming the jungle, TNC have no answer to that. And the scaling for Faceless, I would say, as long as they keep up in the farm, I definitely think they scale decent. Medusa, I mean, he's no joke of a late game hero, and because both of the supports are better at farming than TNC supports, if they just keep this up, they're going to win in terms of economy, purely just because of economy. Maybe their cores match up pretty evenly with OD and Troll Warlord, but because the supports are just going to have more farm, they're going to be able to have more impact in these fights and in turn make the cores better. And for sure, you can say that for Abaddon with his mech as well as his Solar Crest coming out. Compare that to the supports on the side of TNC, and for sure they're buffing up their carries in terms of the Vengeance Aura and the Bloodlust, but they have no items right now. And no Glimmer Capes, no Medallions even. And it's 27 minutes into the game. And you look at Nuts, he's even going into a Midas, and that just shows that Face is willing to play for the long game. Ice is gonna get caught out by Raven now. The BKB is just gonna allow him to man up and chop down that Nyx assassin. He's gonna blink forward onto Jabs, and Jabs does have the Mantis style to try to get himself. He won't be able to get it off and dodge that stun, and he's gonna go down as well. Very big play there from TNC. Roshan is spawning soon, and good BKB coming out of Raven, making sure that he gets that kill. He blinks forward as well onto the Medusa as he realizes the Stone Gaze has ended. And that's something they really needed there, and that's going to allow them to push into this tier 2 and probably take this tower. Repel gonna keep Raven untouchable, and it's definitely up to TNC to make some fights happen, because I think they're really strong in terms of fighting right now, especially with the BKB onto Raven. Because Face is not gonna, I mean, with the Midas pick up on the Christmas, it's just showing that they want to extend this game for at least another 20 minutes or so before they are willing to really close out the game. And that's when Medusa has her Scotty complete, Butterfly, something like that, and she's kind of untouchable, and then they can just siege the base. Because in terms of initiation, TNC don't have the best until like a Hex comes out from Cuckoo or something like that. Right now, they're really just hoping Raven to blink in there, pop his BKB, and just man up on somebody. Ice after his Midas and Blink and rebuilding into a Yules now. Crystal Maiden does have her Midas pickup, as I mentioned, and Black going to be building into BKB of his own. Definitely needs that to man up against the OD. And now Roshan has just spawned. After that couple kills, Rior going to have his Medallion now, and they should be able to clean up this Roshan very quickly, even just solo by Raven right now. They're going to send in the Wave of Terror as well as Cuckoo coming in, and they're a bit spooked. They use the scan, they see that Faceless, know that what's going on, and they're walking in the bottom area here, and they're going to see Black also push in this bottom lane, and they're not going to risk it. They saw what happened in that first game where Jabs was able to just steal their Aegis, and definitely was the nail in the coffin for them in that game. They don't want to give Roshan away to Faceless in this type of scenario, but because they did show the TP onto Tim's in the bottom lane, now they're split up 4v5. They're gonna give Roshan away to Faceless, and I think this is disastrous. And Ice blinking forward, gonna get the stun there onto Cuckoo, and he's in a pretty bad position getting swapped to Logan, but Force Staff or Hurricane Pike gonna get him to the high ground, and he should be able to get away with the repel put onto him as well. And oh, he actually went for a Rod of Atos this game as well as a Hood. This is a pretty standard build against Nyx Assassin. I didn't actually look at Cuckoo's items for a long time now. It's pretty interesting to see what he is picking up after his Hand of Midas. And I think it's okay. Rod of Atos gives him pretty decent intelligence, makes him a bit tankier as well, and the root is good against Slark as he can't pounce away from it. He does have to use his Dark Pact first, and that's not immediate unless he has pre-casted it, which most of the times you do as a Slark. But I mean, it's another option, right, to lock him down, as they don't have the most options in the games right now between the Venge and Ogre stuns that are just easily Dark Pactable. It also allows him to root heroes like Nyx, Medusa down. She doesn't have that much mobility. Of course, the Apodic Shield can always remove it, but I think in terms of the stats and just potential to lock a hero down, it's worth it. But that means that they are playing for this mid to late game victory, I think. Because otherwise, you just save up, get more late game items like the Sheepstick, Shivas, stuff like that. Black, once again, is just split pushing, and every time you can just ultimate and TP away, and they have no answer to it at this point in time. And I don't think they'll ever have an answer to it, as there's no item they can buy that can give them a AoE stun. And we're going to see XY continue to do very well in terms of his farming. He has his Solar Crest complete. He's building into an Ags now, and Face is still feeling very chill, especially with this Aegis onto Medusa. She has her Scotty complete, level 19 onto her now. And I mean, look at Medusa's talents here. 15 damage, not too good. 15 innovation, pretty decent. I think plus 600 mana is pretty big. I don't think you want to go for the plus split shot target. Plus 1 split shot target, that doesn't do too much. This 600 mana though, that's a significant increase in terms of her effective HP. Cuckoo thought about buying a Mystic Staff there, but instead he's going to buy a Blink that's going to allow him to play more aggressive, even get himself out of danger. But very nice catch here from Ice, getting the stun there onto Cuckoo. Now the repel going to be used onto him. He's going to turn around. You see a bit of a Kale here as the fight breaks out, but it's just fine. Raven is forced to pop his BKB, and now Sam H getting caught out. The imprisonment gonna save him for a bit, but will he actually be able to get away? He has the heal. The swap will save him for now. He has the Force Staff available as well, and so TNC will get themselves out of danger for now. XY actually gonna pop his ultimate. They're gonna get a turnaround kill there onto Rior, it looks like. Yep, he does indeed go down, and actually Faceless looking at potential tier 3 at this point, because all the ultimates were really used on the side of TNC, well, except for the OD ultimate, and I guess that's the big ultimate, I guess, but the Guardian Angel is down, which is pretty important, because this is going to allow Black to play a lot more aggressively, especially with his 10-second BKB. While the BKBs are on cooldown for Troll, just for 13 seconds, and I think after seeing that, they're definitely going to back away. OD is still a bit too strong, and they're not going to force the issue. Especially with Medusa completely out of mana, losing a lot of her intelligence as well to the OD. They're just going to back away, play it safe, but I definitely could have seen them get the tier 3 there. But I think they just want to hold on to their Aegis. They don't want to lose it. And I mean, it's not bad. Here you go, Ice, potentially looking to set up something with Black here. And he's scouting out as well. He's going to show himself now onto the creep wave. Tim's going to walk up pretty aggressively to try to get a stun onto him, and he's going to get caught out by Ice. Black going to get the pounce, and that's going to be a kill for Faceless. Ooh, big ultimate there from Cuckoo, but it will only kill a Crystal Maiden. Jab still has his Aegis, and I don't know, 1-for-1 trade Crystal Maiden for Ogre using the Sanity's Eclipse for that one. And I think Faceless now with the OD ultimate down, that's the only thing they were afraid of, because OD had a decent amount of int stacks up, and he still does 20 int steal onto him. That ultimate is what was forcing them to back, but now after Medusa has healed up her Aegis Spite, however, she's going to be swapped in. Nice Stone Gaze, going to keep them at bay, forcing Raven to turn around. He does pick up a Scotty, and his courier is going to die, however. This tier 3 is dead for sure. Or not, they have the fort available. Imprisonment onto the Nyx Assassin. He's going to Carapace it, however, and that's going to allow them to stun turn around. BKB used from Black. He's going to BKB and ult here, so not synergizing those two abilities, or his defensive abilities very well, and that's going to allow TNC to get this turnaround, get the kill into Medusa, as well as Ice Ice Ice. Now it's Black versus everybody. He gets forced to the high ground by the Crystal Maiden, who's going to go down immediately. He doesn't want to be up here. He's going to have to try to pounce in a good direction, and he's this is pretty silly. Oh, what happened? They're just gonna let him get out. They did not have. They have a gem. I think they expected that he TP'd. Yeah, they definitely expected that he TP'd or something, because they just let him go. They didn't want to force staff themselves onto the high ground, because they had the force staffs to do so. Instead, they're gonna realize that 4 heroes are dead. They're like, alright, Black, you can survive. We're gonna force your buybacks, and they do so, forcing the buyback out of Medusa as well as Ice Ice Ice. And I think that was just Faces staying a bit too long, because I mean, I even said it myself. I thought they could get a tier 3, but TNC with the fort, it didn't matter that they didn't have the Sanity's Eclipse. Raven with the BKB didn't do too much there either, but they were just simply able to fight using the Omni Knight and his Guardian Angel. The heals keeping everyone alive. Medusa dishes out damage, but not enough to keep the OD at bay, especially once her ultimate is down. And now TNC gonna smoke up as 5. They're looking to make a move. They know that Faces do not have buyback onto Medusa as well as Nyx, and if they can get a pick off on one of those two, they might be able to secure themselves a Rax, and that's going to be the beginning of the end there for Faceless, as I don't think Faceless can afford to lose Rax at this point. They need to be able to hold it, because losing a set of Rax against Troll, that opens up rat play from Faceless, and it's also something that, even though Nyx is pretty good at catching out heroes, they're really their only hero other than the Slark that really can get these ganks off. And at this point, TNC do have good options in terms of just sieging high ground with the Omni Knight if they get too far ahead, and Troll is at the top of the net worth, nearing Cuckoo, about 20k for both of them. If we look at the overall net worth in the game, it's still very even, and I would just give TNC the advantage just because Faceless do have 2 heroes with buyback on cooldown. And keep in mind they had to use a lot of gold for that as well, so that's going to be Medusa's BKB, or not BKB, Butterfly delayed. Nyx Assassin's next item is delayed as well, and he's going to be building to a 4-staff, it looks like. Not so sure if he's going to stick with that, and now we're going to have a Hex onto Cuckoo. So this is the time. The time is now for TNC to get the victory in this game and continuing their Kiev major journey. They're just going to show Raven now, only hero they're showing on the map right now. And I mean, this is pretty obvious to Faces that this should be a bait. But they're not going to take it. They're grouped up right now, so both teams prepared to fight. And I would definitely have to give TNC the advantage in this next fight, because their Hex pickup is not revealed yet. They're going to get a nice swap into Hex. Very nice play there, and they're even going to get the imprisonment onto the Abaddon while he's already popped his ultimate off, and he's going to go down. Buyback immediately having to come out from Black, and that was insane. That was almost instant. That was swapped right into Hex. Of course, they've set it up. They talked about it, right? He just needs to spam the Hex button onto where Rior was standing, and they got the immediate Hex onto Black. He could not respond at all. And overall, that looks sick. That forced the buyback out from him. That's 3 heroes on the side of Faces without buyback, and it's actually opened that up and see the timers. 6 minutes onto Black, 3 minutes, as well as 3 minutes onto Nick's Assassin as well. And that was a very good Hex purchase, and the first showing of the Hex as well. And I think they feel confident now pushing high ground, or at least pushing into the high ground a bit here. They might be able to siege, take a tier 3. But no, Faces pinging to defend, and they're just going to hold high ground for now. They know that they can't really leave their base, and this is going to pretty much secede all map control away to TNC, as they have 3 heroes right now, 3 cores that don't have buyback, and they just have to play it safe. And Roshan will just spawn, and I think TNC going to be able to get this for sure. There's a DD rune in the bottom lane, so maybe if Black picks this up, Jab's actually going to pick it up, and they run straight towards Roshan. They have the potential to take a fight, but this is a very risky fight for Faceless. If they lose this fight, they're going to lose racks for sure, and potentially 2 sets of racks, as this top one doesn't have a tier 2 to protect it as well. Ice with a nice 2-man stun. They get the pounce onto Tim's in the backline, and he looks like he's going to go down, but he's going to immediately buy it back. Raven getting stuck in this Raj pit. This is not where he wants to be. The swap going to get him out as he was turned to stone. Now Rior turned to stone as well, but Guardian Angel keeping him alive. He's staying alive for a decent amount of time. He's going to go down now. And Raven blinking back in. He doesn't have the Aegis, however. The Aegis was picked up by Cuckoo, and he's stuck up in the imprisonment, and it looks like Raven will go down. Odie loses his life as well, and he's going to go down again, I believe. There's no way he's going to get out from here. Could not get the blink out in time. Maybe he's going to be able to do so now. He's not turned in the right direction, though, so yeah, he does not get out, and that's 3 kills for Faces, and that was a very risky play, but if they came ahead, which they did, that's going to be huge for them, as that's going to force TNC into buybacks now. And they played that fight very well, starting onto Tim's. They gave the Aegis away from TNC. They didn't commit into that too hard, and so that took out the Ogre Magi, and after that, Jabs ran in straight, and I think they only won that fight so hard because Jabs had that DD rune. And now they forced the buyback out of Cuckoo as well as Troll, but Cuckoo gonna go down very low. The swap will get him out, but that's gonna cause Rior to die, and he's gonna fall down very low, having to be shrined up. And he's in the back line here, and Jabs wants to get the kill. He does get the blink out, though, as he was facing in the right direction this time. And Black with 84 Essence Shift stacks. He's going to take this racks for sure. There's no way they can fight. Both the supports are down, and Black is way too farmed. Or not farmed in terms of items, but farmed in terms of 252 Agi. Butterfly going to be picked up by Jabs, and Black just melting this top set of racks. 84 Essence Shifts. That's insane. I mentioned before that Slark does match pretty well in terms of getting high essence stacks playing against this team. He gets a nice dark pack, removing that hex, and so that's 2 set of racks gone already for Faceless. And that seems like a pretty obvious play for TNC just to go for Roshan, but Faceless getting a bit lucky, getting the DD rune, getting a perfect initiation off. It's something that TNC just weren't expecting for them to go for a play like that. With 3 heroes, 3 cores, not having buyback, going for a Roshan play at that point in time could have been game ending for TNC, but instead it was, or game ending for Faceless, I mean, allowing TNC just to take their racks if they died there. But instead it was game winning, so they went out for the risky play there, and it worked out, and now they're 2 set of racks ahead, and I would say looking very good to close out this game, as they're 10,000 gold ahead after that. There's a butterfly onto Slark and a butterfly onto Medusa, and that's something that TNC aren't prepared for at this point. OD, I mean, of course, evasion is something that is very good against OD, and Troll Warlord, he is building into a Demon Edge, and will have his MKB probably for the next fight, I think, but I actually don't know what they do at this point. They've let Faces get too far ahead now. It was really nice for them to get those pickoffs, force those buybacks, but Faces is very far ahead. Keep in mind, their buybacks are still on cooldown, at least Slark's is, but the Medusas and the Nyx are off, so it's not even like they have that option to close out the game if they get any big pickoff either. Like, Faceless will definitely be able to buy back, and I don't think they can fight into Faceless with buybacks at this point. I don't know how they kill Medusa twice. And Black scouting out now with his Silver Edge. Gonna scout out the smoke coming out from TNC. That was a desperation smoke coming out from them. And once again, it's so unfortunate for TNC having this matchup against Faceless. They've made the adjustment, as I mentioned, and it worked out for them so far in this game, at least in the early game. Worked out for them in the second game as well, as they got the win there. But it seems like Faceless is the bane of their existence. They're just simply not able to beat them. And I'm definitely going to have to say that Faceless should take this game. It's like 90% that they take this game right now. I actually don't see how TNC win this. They're going to have to pull out a miracle. And I mean, I'm not going to count them out. This Troll Warlord can just go straight end if they get an amazing hold. And that's why Face is still playing a bit cautious, not just going straight for this bottom set of racks to get Mega Creeps. This tier 3 is already very low, but I think Face's options, and they definitely can't fight outside of base. They don't have the vision, they don't have the heroes to do so. The initiation is still lacking from them. High ground is where they can defend, they can get that swap in into the Hex, they can try to burst the hero. Yeah, but I don't know, level 25 on this Slark. He has his butterfly, has everything he needs. And at this point, once he gets the Abyssal, Medusa still has a slot for another item as well. Going for Lincolns, very late game Lincolns to just deal with that Hex, it seems like. This Aghanims onto XY. I mean, the heroes are so hard to kill at this point. Nyx Assassin has a Lotus Orb, that's going to get rid of the Hex, so they have multiple ways to get rid of the Hex. Especially once the Lincolns come out onto Medusa, then they can just siege, and then the Mega Creeps is pretty much guaranteed to them. I don't think TNC can defend against the Mega Creeps either, so at that point, it's just do or die situation for TNC. They just have to fight, even though it will not be favorable for them to try to fight, even from their high ground. They're gonna have to do it, otherwise they're just gonna give their racks away and be fighting against Mega Creeps at that point, which I would say is too big of a deficit to come back from. And I don't think Face is even going to wait for their BKBs here. Instead, they're just going to pop the Lotus Orb onto Jabs, have it act as a pseudo Lincoln Sphere, as they don't really want to cast the Hex. You saw them try to swap there, and oh, look at him doing damage onto their racks. It's already down to half HP. The Force Staff going to allow him to get pushed back a bit. Now, MKB going to come out for Raven, and the fork gonna be used, but now they can just repeat. There you go, Aphotic Shield put onto Jabs, and they can put the Lotus Orb, they can put the Solar Crest, and there, the Hex coming out, it immediately gets removed by the Aphotic Shield, and they can just rinse and repeat with this. And Imprisonments constantly have to come out because they can't let Jabs reach their barracks, but he's gonna start hitting onto it now. Now Lotus Orb coming out as again. All right, that's a big range barracks there, and they're just gonna keep doing this. And this is what I said was Face's win condition, and I felt like they reached it. I mentioned about like 20 minutes ago that they wanted to win in 20 minutes, and once this Medusa becomes unkillable, they're just gonna siege, and there's not much that TNC can do about it. And we're seeing it here. They're just gonna keep doing this. Solar Crest being popped up. Ice actually going in aggressively with the stun onto Cuckoo. The Hex was used to stop him. And oh, they know that they have to go now. Their melee racks is already gone. The Stone Gaze will keep them back. Buyback from Tims as he goes down there to Ice. And now Jab's just gonna finish up this melee, and as well as the range, and Mega Creeps will be claimed. And simply TNC aren't able to fight this. This should be game. They're not going to call it for now, as there's this one last hurrah. Odie will go down. He does have buyback, but I definitely think it's GG. This Medusa's untouchable. They're going to go in. Raven blinking onto Jabs, but look at that. Without his BKB, he simply can't fight now. He's barely doing any damage to Jabs at all. GG is going to be called, and FaZe is going to take this game against TNC. And I'm happy for Black, as that documentary on him was pretty touching, but you have to feel for TNC. They did so well in the group stages, and then unfortunately, they end up against a team that they just don't match up well against, and because of that, they lose to their SEA brethren team Faces here, and Faces will advance into the next round. And a lot of people were expecting TNC to go far, but Nahaz, gotta have to give out to him for this one. Stats don't lie. TNC has had trouble with Faces in the past. They're continuing to have trouble with them now. And even in the second game where TNC did close out the win, it definitely didn't feel like they did it off of their own play, but more so abused mistakes from Faces. But Faceless didn't make those same mistakes in this game. They got caught out a couple of times. I mean, it was looking pretty good for TNC, but after that amazing team fight at Roshan, they completely turned the game around. And that was TNC going for Roshan and taking it out. And I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, how did they expect that? Um, Faces used 3 buybacks, and it was pretty unlikely that they would go for a fight at Roshan at that point, and they did, surprising TNC and winning them the game. And sometimes you have to make those type of plays, and Faces did it, showing nerves of steel. That play could have easily lost them the game, but instead they took that fight, got the right initiation off, and made sure that TNC really couldn't dish out their damage. Their troll was kited very well, and because of that, gotta have to give it out to Faceless. Very unfortunate for TNC, but Faces will continue in Kiev Major, and TNC will be eliminated. See you guys in the next series, and hope you guys enjoyed watching. Impressive play from Faces. Have to give it out to them, but TNC, I definitely like to see more from them. Unfortunately, they tried their best, and got to give them that. It's because their normal playstyle doesn't match well against Faces at all, so they had to switch it up. And unfortunately, because they weren't very well versed in playing this Sam H on a more so farming hero, it worked out for them in their laning stage. But as to closing out the game, they didn't really perform and execute in a way that fulfilled the requirements of their draft, because they needed to close out the game. Because if Faces got to late game, which they did, there was no way they were touching them to do so. The Slark, their heroes are just way too good late, especially with the Abaddon support getting as much out of the game as he did as well. I don't know what to say, but gotta have to give it out to TNC. Props to them for doing so well in the group stages, and giving Faces the run for their money, but unfortunately, sometimes just doesn't work out. Yep, so see you guys in the next one, and well played, Faceless. Peace out, guys.